chirp.
Thank you for coming to our panel. We will be talking about art direction and production design for animation. My name's Alex Konstad. I'm a production designer at Netflix and formerly art director working with Jake Panian at Paramount. And I worked with this guy at Netflix as his art director. So thank you guys for coming, and I hope we can give you guys some good info that you're happy to be here for. Yuhki?
Cool. I'm Yuhki Demers. Like Alex said, I was working at Netflix with him. I worked with you at Sony. Worked with you at Netflix. Haven't worked with you yet. Soon. But I'm a production designer, sometimes art director, sometimes assistant art director, sometimes biz dev artist. Yeah, I'm super excited to get this conversation going.
Yeah, I'm Jake Panian. I'm also a production designer and at times other things as well. Yeah, I am currently at Paramount. Like these guys, I actually met Alex at Blizzard first, and then Sony.
A long time ago.
So we've been together a while, and like Yuhki said, at Sony we were together, and I'm meeting both of you for the first time. So let me pass it to you, Angela.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Angela Sung. I'm currently an art director at Sony. I've also art directed on TV, so hopefully I can give you guys some interesting information. Yeah, thanks for attending.
Hi everybody, I'm Chrystin Garland. I'm an art director at Wild Canary, and yeah, I've worked with Alex and Yuhki before, and I'm just meeting these lovely people today. So thanks for coming, and thanks for, you were waiting 3 hours. That's insane. So thank you so much
for
us.
All right. So yeah, I thought we'd maybe start by just talking about, because I was fielding some questions from some students earlier, and just talk a little bit about the differences between art direction and production design. And the interesting thing about that is you'll get different answers depending on where you're at. And it's something that you would work out with your art director, production designer, or your director. So I don't know, Alex, do you want to kick it off with what your experience is?
Yeah, I mean, like Jake said, there's a variety of different ways you could answer this question, but it really depends on your working relationship as an AD working with your PD or as your PD working with your AD. I like to think of it generally, art direction and production design can kind of be the same job at times, where you're managing your artists, making sure everybody feels supported. Everybody has very clear targets for the assignments that they're doing. But I like to think of the main differences. If an art director spends a lot of their time managing the artists on the team and making sure everyone's supported, the production designer is the person managing upwards, talking with directors, executives, producers, making sure all the budgets are on track and that you are getting all the information you need from those people, what they're looking for, especially the director, to relay that with your art director, meet, kind of put your heads together, and then make sure the art director has everything he needs to go back and talk to the team and make sure they are getting all the info they need to do their job successfully. So the art that they make while in production is the stuff that everybody wants to see.
Did you write that down? Was that written down? Or?
No, that was just off the top of the head.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like macro and micro, right? Like, and then also like filling in gaps. So when I was offered the job to production design on a sci-fi show, I was like, oh, I can't do this show because I don't really know sci-fi.
So he hired me.
So I was like, Alex has to be the art director, or I'm not taking the job. So it's another way to like fill in the gaps. In some productions on features, especially. Usually the production designer or one person in the production designer art director pair will be more of like a color person, and the other person might be more design focused. And it doesn't really, it just depends on how you get it. I've worked with production designers who are more color people and art directors are more design people, but usually there's one who specializes more in like one side or the other.
Yeah, well, on Dad, we kind of just split everything 50-50.
Yeah, there was so much work that we just had to...
I kind of felt like we were just the same person.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I just hung out with Alex for like 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think the big thing for production design, though, that we haven't quite touched on yet is developing the look of picture. So you'll get hired onto something and they don't really know quite yet what the movie will actually look like or the show. And there might be loose ideas. At times, some people might have a very strong opinion, very strong idea, but it's your job to walk within that circumstance, listen to everyone's opinions and desires, and listen to what they're asking of you. So it might be that they want their exact vision and you're the person to execute. It might be that they're asking you to completely develop it from scratch and it's your job to execute. And sometimes it's just you with the director, and sometimes it's you with an assortment of executives or show creators. But that's a really big part of production design, is the overall vision for the show. Let me toss that over to you guys.
I think you guys were like pretty clear, so yeah.
You crushed it.
Let's start this way next time.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other like differing experience maybe?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I'll lobby a question back to you. How do you navigate a situation where two parties may have differing opinions?
Yeah.
Therapy.
Therapy. No, I won't say where I did this, but there was a project that I worked on that a lot of really strong opinions about what things should be or shouldn't be, and a lot of terms were thrown out. Like it's easy to throw out something like painterly, or textured or whatever, but that can have, even if you're looking at one single painter, like if you look at John Sargent as a painter, you could break that down into hundreds of different textural or mark making techniques. So what do you really mean when you say painterly? And a lot of the answers were like yes to everything. So I basically created a doc. This is kind of overboard, by the way. Normally you'd want to pick like five pieces of art. Do you want this style or that style? I did 300 because it was so all over the place, and I needed consistency. What exactly do you like about this Impressionist painter versus this Renaissance painter? Like where's the Venn diagram here? And I needed that amount to really hone in. And then once you kind of do that, it gives people an opportunity to really speak to their opinions in a kind of a safe way where people aren't fighting their opinion. And then from that, I have like a really great starting point of where to go. But, yeah, I don't know if you guys...
I just pick what I want to do.
That can be the answer too.
Where it's like, these are both great, but how about this?
Yeah, and I'm ultimately making films and TV shows is about collaboration and a lot of communication and a lot of working together and unfortunately making concessions. So it is a lot of just like hard meetings, talking with usually a lot of colorful, very powerful personalities and making sure everybody can make the right concessions to make sure they're getting what they want. And then it's up to you as the PD or the AD to kind of take all of those things and distill it down and come back with art that kind of makes everybody happy.
I also kind of feel like the bigger the project I've worked on, the like longer we delay the consensus for some reason.
That's
Yes.
so true. Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, oh, this movie comes out in 3 months and we haven't figured out what this world looks like. And it's like, well, we better, and sometimes it's not even up to us. It's just like the time determines like, well, whatever we have is what's going on screen, so that unfortunately happens a lot.
Yeah, there's almost always no shit moment where it's like, we just got to make the thing.
Oh, I was going to say a lot of people also don't realize how many meetings we have to be in. That's also like super exhausting. Yeah.
Part of, like, I guess, so when you come up through, I don't know how many of you are students right now, but your biggest stress right now is to get a job. You want to get your foot in the door and be looking, and then your stresses change to doing good work, and then once you step up, you're having to deal, as Alex and everyone was saying, with managing up and down, and part of that is having to have insight over the whole project. So you're in about 500% of the meetings that you would normally be in. And so then on top of that, if you're a production designer or art director that actually wants to still continue to do work, you need to find time to do that. Because a lot of times it's so much management that people kind of stop doing work. I in particular, I don't love that. I want to keep doing art. But it's definitely an added challenge of,
Yeah, you basically just do it when everyone goes to sleep.
Yes.
Or first thing in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another big thing too that I think in this industry we need to work on is when I got promoted, like my first management role, right? My dad, who's worked at JPL his whole career and is a project manager, he's like, "Oh, so when are you starting management training?" And I was like, "Oh no, they don't do that." Like usually it's just like they hire someone who they like their art, so like, hey, this person should lead a team of people. Like question on, no questions asked. And so he was like, oh, you should really think about like how people like work, how people work differently, how people have different personalities, how some of those personalities, they're not going to get along with each other. How are you going to, solve conflict and all that stuff? And I was like, oh my God, like, so I was like, I took it onto myself to like read some stuff about management and like, okay, here's some management styles that I like that I just kind of, figured out on my own. Like, oh, I liked it when they gave me a little bit more time and weren't as mean, like that sort of thing. But it's like, it's kind of an error sometimes where it's like, oh, usually the best artist gets the job as production designer. But like what Jake was saying, a lot of times they don't have time to do the art and they're going to want to do all the art, but they have to be in all these meetings. So it's like, it kind of goes against what they want to do. So it turns into this horrible situation where they're in meetings all day and then the meetings end at the end of the workday and then they work from, the end of the workday till midnight, 1 o'clock just to get the work done because they don't want to delegate, so.
Hey, I'm delegating. I just have a lot to do. I got a lot to do.
No, I know you delegate. I'm just saying other
but
people.
It's a good point though. Like I think one of the things that is uncomfortable for people stepping into these roles is how to let go of the,
Totally.
Because you spend literally your whole life, maybe sometimes from when you're 3 years old, pursuing the craft of being an artist in all its various facets. And so when you step up to manage, you're kind of letting some of that go.
I feel like that's a good segue. We all started out as visual development artists, concept artists, illustrators, and then were promoted to leadership. What do you guys think was the biggest eye-opening moment or difference between being in visual development versus stepping up to managing a team of artists?
I think I didn't realize how often you would be pitching ideas. Because sometimes you will get a prompt and it's just like, and make it look cool. And so you really have to sit down and sometimes like be like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. And then you have to convince them why. So kind of looking at, who are our competitors? What's popular right now? Also, historically, what's been done before? And being able to use that in your arsenal for not saying just it looks cool, but also like this is going to be a benefit for this specific project. That's something I had to get used to real quick.
There's no training for that. So it is, once you're put on the spot, it's really difficult. I think for me personally, I'm kind of an introvert. So I think when I hire my team on, just getting to know, like what you guys were kind of saying earlier, how to communicate with them, how to make sure their spirits are still high while kind of doing the right job, and then just hitting all the deadlines. I think that was something that was really difficult for me. I'm also really sensitive, so sometimes I read too much into things, so I think I had to learn how to let that go as well. But yeah, I think just being more extroverted and just communicating what you were saying earlier is super important.
Yeah, that's like something that I think about all the time, right? Where like when you're an artist and you're just showing up to your job and you get an assignment and you go back to your cave and you turn your music on and you start drawing, you don't have to talk to anyone. But as a production designer, art director, like that's 99% of the job is communication. And I've seen, my peers and my friends where someone might be a little more junior as an artist, but then they get promoted to like art director, promoted to production designer. And then some of the other friends may not be so happy. And they're like, well, what are they doing? I'm like, well, they show up on time and they speak in meetings and they're really clear about their ideas and these things. And people notice that and they say, oh, like this person, knows how to communicate complex ideas in a quick way. And they show up on time and they turn in their work on time. Like they got management, written all over them. So it's like, then they're like, oh, I thought you just had to be like a talented artist. And it's like, well, like you do, but that's not the whole job, right?
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point. Just being on time and punctual and clear. Like you guys would be surprised how hard that is sometimes. Yeah.
And how appreciated it is by your art directors
Yes.
and production designers when you are.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue. Like I was thinking maybe we could talk a little bit about experiences or specific pieces of advice that we've all had that kind of led us to those good either working habits or whatever led us to these opportunities to get these jobs through our biz dev careers.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll just go first.
Yeah, do it.
For me, some of the production designers I've worked with that I liked the most, they were the most like supportive. and they'd say like, hey, we're going to launch your set into the next department, the 3D, like why don't you come to that launch to see what happens with what you've just designed, like you design this set so you can answer any of the questions they might have, like is that a pillow or is that like a rock, I don't know, so that sort of thing was really helpful for me to kind of see the next
insight
step.
into the whole process.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Also, just production designers that kind of trust you, and artists, we're a fickle bunch, like we'll have bad days and worse days, and on your worst days, like it's great when your boss can say like, hey, like you're good at this job, that's why I hired you, like you can do it, right? That's always helped me, and I try to do that whenever I'm in a place to do it.
Yeah, I had a bit of luck being at the right place at the right time, working with people and asking a lot of questions. But I think that leads into like I've always been someone that asks a lot of questions. I like to be very communicative, both as a visual development artist, talking to my art director or production designer, but also now as a PD, talking to all of my artists. And I think it was just that, being communicative, being on top of what you think people want, asking if that is what they want, and then giving your 110% to try and hit that target as clearly as possible. I think it was all of those things that led to when positions did open up for me for art direction and production design.
I got one for everyone.
Everybody thought of like, well, Alex is always on top of his shit and always asks questions and is always giving us what we want. Maybe he can help us in these next positions, which is kind of what put me here.
Sure. I don't really know.
Wait, I got another question for you then.
Like-
What's your favorite part about like art directing, production design? Like, what's your favorite part of the job?
I think my favorite part, like Alex was saying, it's a collaborative medium. So getting together with artists that I respect and admire, like I made it a point to like hire people. I'm like, you're so good, like too good. So come be with us. So and just getting together and watching like this whole new world like open up before us. I love brainstorming. I love making the little PDFs and being like, this is the show style. Like that's my favorite part, and seeing all the work that comes back and seeing these artists like just absolutely nail it. That's fantastic. So yeah.
For me, I mean, yeah, everything you said for sure. And then I think one thing that I really like is sometimes maybe I don't hire maybe the best artists, but they have a really good attitude. And then watching them grow together with you during the production is something that I also really enjoy. I also wanted to ask, kind of piggybacking off of this, like, do you guys feel like social media is like kind of helpful for getting noticed for these jobs? Because I don't know, is there a type of style of posting where you can see a certain type of personality come through? Like, I know this is kind of off topic from the question, so you guys can answer the question first, but I wanted to, throw that out there.
I got all of my jobs from being noticed on Instagram. Jake reached out to me via the Blizzard recruiting art department because I had paintings on my Instagram. And then I left from Blizzard to Real Effects, which I ended up art directing a Scooby-Doo movie. And the director of that movie found my paintings on social media. And at that time, I wasn't posting anything beyond just my art. But I've definitely, and if any of you guys follow me now, I post a lot of silly shit. I put myself out there. I put my personality out there quite a bit. And I found that to just it's made me more approachable. But also the amount of art I post now just keeps my name out there. And so I find it's almost essential to post those things.
I think
post whatever you want, but just post good work.
Yeah, it's like you have an assortment of tools at your disposal to get attention not only for jobs but positions that you might want. And I think for me, social media, like I'd be doing one thing at work and be like, yeah, but I can do all these other things. And so much of when you're trying to get in or when you're trying to get a new position is like, I can do it, I just need the chance. So Instagram or wherever you might post is that chance to be like, look at all the things I can do. And then you can actually dictate the course of your career and all. But it kind of like was weird for me because at first I was this really heavy set designer. And then I was like, I want to do moments and character things. So I started posting all those. And then I got hired only for moments. I was like, yeah, but I can do that stuff too. And, but then I was going to loop that back into the bigger thing, but I totally lost how I was going to do that.
My
so,
bad.
No, it's fine.
Should we open up to Q&A now?
Just to finish the first question, and to piggyback off what Angela's saying, I am a big proponent of hiring people if the portfolio is good but the personality is great. My favorite thing is working with people and, like Angela said, watching them grow and giving people a shot to sharpen their teeth and cut their teeth. So I think it's very important, even if you don't feel like your work is exactly where you want it to be, or if it's at the level that you think you need to be to get a job at DreamWorks or Real Effects or Netflix or Disney. If you're a great personality and you're very easy to talk to, very easy to work with, you have a very positive disposition, you are always going to be a good fit for working on teams and working in-house, because people will always enjoy working with you. And I think those things are harder to teach than how to get good at painting.
Let me say one thing, and then maybe we open up. But yeah, like one thing, it kind of relates to some of the other questions of things that we learned when we stepped into these positions. When you're at the front, when you're leading a team, sometimes there's people with great attitudes that are ready for you and are very supportive, and then once in a while there's people that will push back. And I think like anyone who's been through the industry, we've all had our moments, right?
There's always a bad boss.
Yeah, but if you ever teach a class at school and you see somebody like texting or slipping a note or whatever, it's very, very obvious as the teacher at the front of the class who's doing that. And if that little like frustration within you that might be expressed on an art team is very, very obvious in comparison to all the other team members. So as these guys are saying, your working attitude is very, very important, and it continues to be important, because if you step up into these positions, the challenges that you'll face will be bigger and more consequential. I want to leave this with hopefully like a couple hopefully useful things, of tidbits of advice. So you guys waited 3 hours, so maybe you leave with something useful from me. Two pieces of advice that I got that sound very simple, but I think were really great, and very easier said than done. I had a background painter he was a background painter at Disney, worked on Lilo and Stitch and Aladdin and all these things. And in my internship at Blue Sky, he said to me, become undeniable. And easier said than done. But what that means is undeniably you are somebody who pushes the process forward. You don't hold things back, meaning that you're always helping, and it's undeniable that you are helping solve problems. And the next piece of advice, also very simple, was from Rex Grignon, who's the head of animation at DreamWorks for a while, and he taught at our school, San Jose State, for a little bit. And he said, guys, every single project or assignment you get, just do your absolute best. And that's very easy to say, but what that means is, like, sometimes you get a rock, sometimes you get a toothbrush, and you kind of like get excited about it. And but every single thing is important. Every single person is important in the overall process, and everything you need to deal with the same amount of respect. So those are the things that I would say. But I don't know if you guys, did that inspire any other advice things before we open it up?
I mean, this is good for. I have a good one for students.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, especially if you're first starting out, and especially when it comes to social media, try not to get too into your head about what you post. You never know, like, we're all our own worst critics, right? And you never know what somebody else is going to see in your work and what opportunities you may get from that. I remember, and I'm aging myself here, when I was on Blogger,
I was on Blogger too.
Me too.
And I was just learning how to digital paint, and so I would just throw up sketches on there whenever I had them, and someone reached out to me and was like, oh, like, your style, we think that would be great for your show. And I was just like, awesome, like so yeah, just go for it, and the worst someone can say is no.
My advice is, once you guys kind of get into the industry, it's pretty important, at least from my experience, to let people know, I guess, what your goal is. At DreamWorks, they were really helpful. They gave me my first opportunity as an art director on Kipo, a TV show, and it was because I just kept telling them like, oh, I've been working as a background designer and painter for X amount of years. Is there a chance where I can like maybe art direct? And something opened up. So sometimes it's the right time, right place, but you also have to be vocal, and you're the only one that can help yourself.
That's so huge. Right, like how are they going to know you want to be an art director if you don't tell anyone?
Yeah,
Like they're
especially
not.
if you're shy.
Yeah, they're not going to find you and be like, "Oh, Yuki, he's like working so hard over there and he's not talking to anyone. Like, make him the art director." It's like, no. And then I found out too. Like one of my friends who got promoted, I'm like, "How'd you get promoted?" And he's like, "Well, I asked the head of the studio if I could be an art director."
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I didn't shut up about it. Even when I was a visual development artist, every person I found, I would try to befriend all the directors and the people making the thing. And I was always being like, yo, man, if you do another thing after this one, like, I want to art direct. And I would go out of my way to say that to as many people as possible. So, yeah, to echo what they're saying, be forward, be direct, and let everyone know what you're looking to do in your career goals. And the right person will hear it and will potentially give you that shot. And I can't emphasize that enough. It's just be direct, be open, and let everybody know what you want to do.
My advice is just be kind.
Be kind. That's a great one.
It goes a long way.
Do you guys want to do Q&A?
Yeah.
All right, so we can open it for Q&A. There's a lot of questions, huh?
Yes, throw them at us.
As leaders, how do you push through and deal with like discouragement or personal setbacks that you might have in the process?
Yeah. Go ahead. You had it ready? All right.
I was going to say I take a walk. I take an anger walk. Just go around the block and then I calm down.
Are you talking about like personally as the leader or with that on your team?
Both like as a leader when you have to like maybe like when you are feeling discouraged.
Yeah. Okay, so I always felt, because I was never the best artist on the team, that it made me a better production designer, because I know what it feels like to suck. And I know what it feels like to feel like you failed something, right? So I was very sensitive to that feeling and that emotion. So I was maybe like overly like, no, that's what you did is great. Like, you know, or I always made sure to make sure the artist knew, like, we're not approving this because of the skill level. It's just not right for what we need right now. Like, it's the wrong design for this specific thing. You know, it has nothing to do with the skill level. But
Yeah, I think undoubtedly in these positions you're coming up against situations that seem like insurmountable, and there are times where things happen that you can't control that makes things really hard. And you just like any other person, you're gonna feel all the emotions. But I would say for us, like me and Alex, it's like when we were art directing, or we were working together. We would say things to each other, get it off our chest about our frustrations, but then we contain it to us. And once we step back out on the floor, it's like we are leading the charge, and you guys can trust us to get this done. And we really mean it. Like, we're going to get it done. And once you say that to someone who, because they're feeling it too, a director is going to be really stressed too, so much on their plate. If there's a lot for me on my plate, there's more for her and Lauren for me. So much on her plate that I want to take off, and I want her to feel that I got her back, you know. And it's going to be hard when she's stressed, if I'm freaking out in front of her, right? So you don't want to do that. You got to
take a walk and freak out privately.
Yeah. Freak out privately at home. You can cry at home.
To piggyback off that, I think, you know, like Jake was saying, it's very important once you're in these positions of leadership to forward-facing, make sure everyone feels supported and positive. Because if you're exhibiting signs of, oh, fuck, everything is going to be on fire, we're all going to lose our fucking jobs, everyone on the art team is going to feel that, and they're going to start stressing, then their quality of work is going to go down, rightfully so, because they're all worried about not having jobs, the show being canceled, and all those things. So it's, I think, being forward-facing and always being positive about things, despite the hurdles and the adversity you're up against in a production, is very important. But also the thing that helps me kind of reframe this now, and I've worked on Jake with a couple, no, I wouldn't say bad, but difficult situations. And especially now these days, I think it's important to just acknowledge that making films, making TV shows, every show, even the best productions, will have fires that you need to put out and things you need to deal with. and just being able to roll with the punches and, work organically and find there's always a path out and there's always a way to fix everything. So it's just good to have a level head and assess that and figure out what is the best strategy out of that situation, which usually just comes down to communication and talking to everybody in all departments and making sure you can develop a strategy to solve those problems.
And if you're just talking about yourself, I often feel like shit about myself and my art. So I think what's really fun about art is kind of this internal battle that you have with yourself. You kind of get better at dealing with your own disappointments, because when I was in college, I was like, oh, after 5 years, I'll be at feature. But it took me quite a bit of time. So I felt like I was constantly letting myself down. As you're working a lot longer, you get more tolerance for that. So I think it builds up to becoming a better art director, like what they were all saying previously. You know how other people feel, you know how to communicate with them, you know how to talk to them. So I would say if you guys are feeling discouraged about your art, just keep going, keep practicing, because you guys should look at how you were drawing 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and then just look at all the small improvements you have to kind of keep yourself going.
Yeah, just to echo that, 2015 Alex would really admire 2024 Alex for not being such a fucking hothead. So you can learn patience and you can learn good ways to strategize and deal with things just by going through projects and working on things. And over time, you will find the ways that enable you to best cope with difficult situations, because I used to be really, really bad at doing that.
This question kind of reminds me of something that was kind of surprising to me. I mean, I knew it was coming, but when you are a visitive artist on a team, you kind of have this myopic view of oh, today I'm designing a toothbrush, and the character is going to use this toothbrush and whatever is going to happen with that toothbrush. But then as a production designer, art director, you're like, here's the whole thing we got to do. Figure out how we're going to get it all done. And so it's the difference is oh, hey, can you just work on chipping this small piece of the iceberg? That's the artist, right? But the production designer, art director is here's the whole iceberg. We're fucked.
How much does the iceberg weigh? How are we going to get on the scale? Who's going to do this part?
By the way,
the thing
yesterday.
Yeah, I remember talking to Alex where it was let's just get 1 or 2 things done a day. And if we can get 1 or 2 things done a day, we solve some problems, we can go to sleep, we'll do it again tomorrow. And by the end of this 2-3 years, maybe we'll have all the problems solved.
Next part.
Hopefully.
We talked for 25 minutes on it.
Hey guys, I'm Jeremy. I love hearing about how you guys keep talking about supporting the artists. It makes me really curious. What were some critical moments for you that you were supported by your art directors? What ways did you need to be pushed in when you were still leveling up?
I can start with this one. My first movie I worked on was 2015. I was working with my production designer, David Levy, and we had a lot of notes from studios, and we had a lot of stuff to do. And I think one day I just broke down, and I was painting the hollow deck of the Falcon jet for Captain Falcon? No. Falcon, I don't know. Blue Falcon. And I just broke down. I just couldn't fucking do it anymore. And my PD pulled me into the office and was like, we're all human. You can't go 100% every day. We're not robots. And, it's okay. If you have a bad day, just acknowledge that. Come back tomorrow. Try a little better. Try a little harder. And just hearing that from my boss, because I looked up to him quite a bit. I'd known from him on concept art forums and all these things for years before I worked with him. Just hearing that acknowledgement from him and being like, hey, bro, just go home. Take the day off. Chill out. Just come back tomorrow, and we'll hit it again. And I came back the next day, finished the assignment, showed the director, and it was approved. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to put this much pressure on myself.
You took a walk, right?
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. So I think that's probably for me. That would be the just hearing from my boss. It's okay to have a bad day, and it's okay to not be at your top % work level all the time. Just let me settle into and find my groove.
I think the culture's kind of shifted too, where our generation is different from the previous generation, where the previous generation of artists and art directors were get better, get the fuck out, and it's I don't have time for your crying or whatever. And I think we've kind of realized that's not really healthy.
Not at all.
Or conducive to the best work.
Help, man.
right? So it's like I think this is the first time where like now we are coming in and we get to decide like how we're going to treat people or how we're going to run the show or like how we're going to run the department. So like being, sensitive and aware of like, oh, this person might be having a bad day. I'm just going to remind them like, I hired you because you're good. You're really good at this. Like I believe in you. That's why I gave you this hard assignment. Bye. Good luck.
I got two. I want to give you negative and positive, because I've been told I like to do a lot of different things, right? And I've been told at some point in my career that I'm bad at every single aspect of this job by someone, and I've been told that I'm great at every single aspect of this job, and so like what do you do with that, right? And how do you sort that out? But some of these examples are early on. My art director, when I was just starting, Mike Knapp, who's somewhere around here, not in this room, but he's at Lightbox.
Everyone look under their chairs. Mike might be there.
No, this is good though.
It's a good story.
It's good. This is the good one. I'm not gonna. The bad one's not that bad either, but the good one is I was just starting, and he right out of school, he basically started giving me like the lead sets, and you feel a lot of pressure when you first start your job. You're frantic. You're like, you want to keep the job, you want to do your best, and it's not really necessarily comfortable at the beginning of your career, and it's driven by your passion, right? And so you basically just told me, I believe in you, and you can do it, and you got it. And he walked me through what is actually needed, and gave me the support, and continued to give me the support, and I'm super thankful of it. And then I would say like it's not negative, but it's another experience where just imagine this, like you're doing all the great sets at this one studio, you're like known for this, your confidence is building, and you go to the next studio, and it's all different games being played in terms of the art being done, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that because you did great there, you're great here, and because the goals are different. And so it's hard for you to adjust, maybe, of a new challenge. And so I coming in with like full confidence, but then being told like it's not it, man. It's not good enough. And it's like shattering kind of, because you're used to getting like, oh, you're great, and then the one person's like, it's not that good, and it's really hard to take. But I'm also, in retrospect, very thankful for those moments, because they had a point, and I had to get better at certain things, and I did get better because of that. And that was, for me, my time at Blizzard. It was hard for me to swallow some things, but I am so grateful to have worked with some of those artists. Yeah.
Angela, Chrystin?
Okay. I guess I always feel like I'm going to be fired when I get hired. So that lasts for about 2 months every single time. Okay. I've been working for 13 years and I still feel that way. So,
me too.
Yeah. Okay. Really? Wow. Okay. I'm glad I'm not alone. But I think if you have an art director that really supports you, sometimes you just can't get the style right away. So I think when they take the time to sit down with you for the first few months and then just guide you through, I think that's really helpful for me. I'm also kind of like Jake, where I just like to try different things. So I did this really crazy thing where I went to Shanghai and I worked in this Asian studio. Asian studios are really crazy, by the way. And then I had to draw each background over 8 times. So that was like really hard for me and really discouraging, but I think it's like a bad thing that pushed me to be better, like what Jake's examples earlier. So I don't know if this is answering your question or not, but I think putting yourself kind of in uncomfortable situations and having the right person to guide you through it is the best support I ever got, and it made me an even better artist.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get mushy. But Alex and Yuki, when I was working with you on My Dad, the Bounty Hunter, like you all helped my art grow so much. I learned so much from you, and you were always so good at like challenging me, but also not making me feel like an idiot, which is a skill, is such a skill. And you were so approachable. So when I was feeling discouraged, I could reach out to both of you, and that was such a good experience. And I just remember thinking to myself, even before I got the AD position, like, I want to continue this like philosophy moving forward. So yeah.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
We're all a little misty.
Yeah, I think too, like when you had to design Mom's van, and you were like, "Oh, I've never done this before," and I'm like, "Well, that's gonna mean that means that you're gonna get better because you have to do it." Bye.
And I was sweating. I was sweating so much.
Yeah, like I tell people, I didn't paint cities before Spider-Verse, so it was like baptism through fire. Like it was like, and now that's all I want to paint. But
I think that's all I end up painting now. is cities.
yeah, it's I call it fear-spiration. Right, where you're surrounded by all these like super talented people wherever you work, but you're also really scared that you're not like up to the level. So you're like inspired, but you're also constantly in fear.
And just a secret, the greatest artists out there all feel that. Even there's a diary of, Bouguereau, the painter. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but he's one of the greatest painters ever to have lived. And there's a diary of him being insecure about Monet, or I think it's Monet, but yeah, we've had talks about that where I'm like, and in my head I'm looking at Alex's work, I'm like, God damn, that's great, and he's like, dude, I don't know.
I'm looking at his work like, God damn.
He was like, I didn't know if I was good enough. What the hell? Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should
You
move on to.
want to do another question? Yeah.
Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Great question.
Who's got
Or there's the mic back there. Oh, there we go. No, they're handing the mic over there. Yes, sir.
I just got off of a recent production where I was expected to do some traditional animation, but they didn't have updated character designs. So I was kind of just going in blind. So now I'm wondering, how often are there like gaps in a production that other aspects of the pipeline have to then kind of like power through?
You see our reaction there? Everyone was like, well, let me tell you.
That's probably the perfect nightmare scenario I could ever think of, and it's something Jake and I, when we were working on Avatar together, tried to very adamantly prevent. It's probably the worst thing you could deal with as a art department is working on top of other departments, animation, rigging, modeling, without having approved designs. But shit happens, and sometimes that comes down to talking with production, talking with the producer, talking with the directors, and just letting them know that, A, we need to make some fucking decisions. Do you like any of the art we're showing? Because we need to ship things. And if not, having conversations about pivoting and delivering a different sequence, or literally doing anything you possibly can to prevent that scenario. Because at that point, if you do all of your animation, but then 3 weeks later, someone's like, actually, this is the final design, it's going to be back on your desk and you got to do it all over again. And that's bad for morale. It's bad for the budget, and it's bad for finishing shots. So it's kind of like, I'll do anything I possibly can to avoid that scenario that you were in as much as I possibly can.
And sometimes you just can't avoid it. Think of it like this: like if you're working on a personal piece, let's say a painting, because it's easier for me to talk to you. You get to a point in the painting where you're like, yes, this is so good, and you go to sleep, and you come back the next day, you're like, this is awful. and so that happens on like a larger scale, but with like 500 people. So then you're trying to organize all that, and Alex is absolutely right. The ideal is that we get this running smoothly and we go forward with a clean pipeline, but there's always things where something just doesn't happen, and we need to figure it out. And I feel your pain, I understand the frustration, but it unfortunately it does happen. But our job is to try to figure it out quickly.
Mitigate that.
Yeah. You guys got any other stories?
No, those were great.
You covered it.
More questions?
Dude, we can continue to talk to you.
Hi. Is this working? Okay, sorry, can't tell. Hi, I'm also an art director in a different industry. It's book publishing. In a different way, I kind of live every day in your nightmare scenario. And I'm just kind of curious because as our company has been currently growing, kind of all of our executive production people all believe that they're art directors now, and it's really difficult for my entire team to get their job done with larger titles on a regular basis. And I've been on plenty of angry walks And I'm just, things have kind of calmed down recently, but like the wave is going to come again. Yeah. And I guess my question would be, if you were kind of in these shoes, which I know you have been, what would you do to kind of like keep yourself and your production team kind of optimistic? Like we're trying to be as collaborative as we can. It doesn't really feel like it's being met in the middle. And I guess I was just wondering what your advice would be for that scenario.
Yeah. So I saw everyone. So this is always like, yes, we all have had experiences. So I think for me, at the end of the day, numbers don't lie, and there's a reality to budget and schedule. And if nothing else, if you can't get on the same page, and you can't get people to compromise, what ends up happening is what can even be done financially. Yeah. And if you can wrangle all corners of that conversation, then you have more of a reason of why, because you're dealing with a lot of opinions. Well, I like this, I like blue, I like red. But if you can't,
and a lot of times those opinions, they don't know the cost of the opinion, right?
Yeah. And so everyone needs to compromise in order to get it done. And it does take, like, I think as a Viz Dev artist, what you will learn to do is like, that sounds great. I'll do that again for the 500th time, and I love it. And like, you get really good at that skill. When you step into this position, one of the hard things I think to do is the opposite of like, this is it. We have to go now, and maintaining a good relationship with people when you do that can be challenging. Do you guys got any advice about how to?
Yeah, I mean, just reminding them of the reality of the situation is always good, where it's like, yeah, we can go ahead and we can do that change that you're requesting, but it's going to cost another 10%, or it's going to take us another 3 weeks. Like, then they're like, you know what, the note's not that important, never mind, like.
Yeah, I think it's in those situations, it's very important to advocate for your team to the people up above you, but also at the same time, be as big of a shield for your team as you possibly can, and try to prevent any of that chaos, confusion, and negative notes getting to your team, so they can kind of trust in you that you will help them get the job done. Because if you can kind of mitigate any of that negativity, your team will thrive. And even on the hardest jobs or the tightest turnarounds, they're going to be hopefully happy to get it done. If they aren't privy to how inane it is that they have to do this because the notes are so insane. So like, advocate for your team, fight for your team, but also shield your team from as much of that bullshit as you possibly can, just to keep them happy and excited. And then, like Yuki's saying, fight for your team to those executives. It may be scary because you got to put your neck on the line and be like, no, I think you're fucking wrong. But probably don't say it like that. Don't say it like that. But
they like documents and spreadsheets.
Yeah, constantly remind them, whether through data or any kind of timetables you can provide of how this is going to move out the end date, or delivery date, launch date, print date, probably print date if you're in editorial and things. Just remind them of those very real factors of like, we need to make these decisions because of X, Y, and Z. And just, it can be hard, it can be difficult, it can be scary. I still get nervous about doing these things, but the more you can do that while shielding your team from the blowback, I think more successful your department will be.
We can do one more, right?
We go till 1:15.
1 second.
Oh yeah. I thought it was like one.
Okay. We started. I thought it was like one. Okay, we got time.
Yeah, we got.
Is it on? Okay. I was wanting to ask about when you're looking at socials versus portfolio, and how you kind of determine if you see someone's social first. Because if you're trying to put yourself out there and just putting out sketches versus trying to get together your portfolio, I always kind of view my social as my portfolio too, so that's what's scary about it.
I think it's all portfolio. Yeah. Like, whatever you put online, like, sometimes I'll get a LinkedIn request or something, or someone will say, hey, can you look at this? And the first thing I click on is their Instagram, right? And maybe I don't even look at their like portfolio page. So you just have to be mindful that like whatever you put out there is going to be looked at, and if it doesn't represent the best of your abilities, like, think about taking it down. Or not, I don't know.
I like to think of it when I'm posting things like and looking at other people's socials for the art that's on there. As long as there's a mix, like 75-25, either professional or finished personal work versus sketches, studies, plein air paintings, and figure drawing. If the ratio is like 75-25 personal work, design work, and professional work versus those studies, I'm happy. And I like to see the studies and the personal work together, but seeing the studies makes me happy because I'm seeing that artist is growing. They're trying new things. They're taking stabs at new subject matter. But then seeing the finished work to me is the most important because it lets me know how they're applying all of those studies to final work, which would be seen in the production pipeline.
Yeah, personally, I agree. I like a mix as well. I've seen some portfolios where they have, or some socials where they have nothing but finished work, and that's beautiful, but then in the production pipeline, getting there was a struggle. So it's nice to see that foundational work sometimes, but I agree, like, you do need to show your final work to show you can take it to the finish lines.
I also like looking at people who try different things and experiment on their social media. So I'm always really excited to see when people are trying multiple styles out. Sometimes one style might not be a good fit for one show, but maybe later on, because you tried so many different things, I'll be like, oh, this person did this too. So that always helps me remember people.
I agree. Take another one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello. Okay, so my question is about feedback because I'm in a leadership position right now and I'm just starting out, so I'm brand new at it. And I'm finding it difficult to trust that the artists on my team are going to do what they need to do to go in the direction of the show that we're creating. And so there's a little bit of hand holding that's going on with the feedback, and it's taking a long time because, of course, you might have experienced with this as well. Like, some of the artists are able to take what you tell them and take it further and make it better, while some are maybe not at that level. So they might do exactly the thing that you did in your drawover, even to the point where they're copying your rough sketch. And so I'm just curious, like, how do you let go of that, like, control that you want to have over the final product, and like how do you kind of trust that they're going to reach that on their own and making them like grow on their own as well?
Yeah, I think I'm sure we all have different answers maybe for this, but I think you touched on something really good there. In my opinion, these projects kind of take on a bit of a life of their own, and yes, it needs to look like the look of picture, but you really in reality don't have 100% control over every single thing because it's done by multiple people, right? So you kind of, to me, I start looking at what is this person really great at, and then I start casting kind of towards that, and then what do they really want to do, and then when there's opportunities I can cast towards that. And the other thing is sometimes like people do need a little bit of hand holding, and then I try to look at myself, well, am I being clear? You know, and sometimes I think I'm being clear, but I don't know if that's really, like, and when you're on the other side of it, I'm sure there's somebody on my project right here on the other side. There are things that we think are so clear, and it comes back and it wasn't, you know?
Yeah, because they don't have the benefit of like the millions of hours of meetings you've had about something. So it's like, oh, it's like this, and you're like, well, they don't have that same time invested in that subject, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, clarity is like super important.
And sometimes you just have to let go because of time.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I mean, when Yuhki and I were working on Dad, I draw mechs and robots and sci-fi shit all the time, and I have a very specific way I like to do it, but I learned very quickly all of the artists' work was way better if I let go, let the artists have fun, and maybe it wasn't what I had in my mind, but what they turned back in was great work. They were proud of it, and there was a path to taking that work and putting it on screen, and it would still be good.
Yeah, was the question I always ask myself, is this note something just that I want?
Yeah.
Like, is the design wrong for me personally, or is the design wrong for the show?
Exactly.
Right.
And
if
so
it's just wrong for me, then maybe I won't say the note.
don't
right?
give the note, yeah. So I think being open to letting artists take ownership of their work and encouraging them to do that work the best they can, But also, I mean, at the end of the day, being in leadership, there will always be a little hand-holding with more junior artists, and there will always be a little aspect of needing to just let go and let artists own their work. And because, like we said earlier on, this whole process is very collaborative, and you just can't control everything. So you just need to make sure that you have a positive work environment and everybody's having fun.
I agree. I think too sometimes just having those brief like one-on-ones, if you find that doing drawovers just aren't getting across to your designer, sometimes just like sitting down talking to them, being like, listen, this is my shorthand, like you don't have to copy it like verbatim, or if you also realize that every designer is going to be different and they're going to accept and absorb feedback differently, you can kind of pivot to their needs that way. So sussing that out early on often helps.
Yeah, maybe with the person that's copying your drawovers, like maybe no more drawovers, right? All the notes are verbal now, so they have to do it themselves.
I also am a big believer in, I've only really worked in CG pipelines. I haven't worked on a lot of 2D stuff other than with Jake briefly. But you have multiple steps after the art department to run it through modeling, run it through surfacing. It's going to go through rig testing and calisthenics, that you have as a PD and an AD multiple opportunities to make sure it grows as it goes through each department. So making sure you just keep an eye on it and you let the artists own it, but as the person in leadership, you will be helping that asset, that set, or that character get better as it moves through the pipeline.
Okay, last question.
Last question. Everybody all at once. No, I'm just
I wanted to ask y'all, do you ask questions about the budget or scope of the project before
every
you get
day?
hired? And then do you ever get surprised by the budget afterwards, or if you can't hire enough artists or something like that?
I mean, I think that recently, any interview that I've ever been in, I'm like, okay, what's the budget? Because if you're asking for Arcane and you have $5, you're not going to get it.
I ask for the budget every day, and I still rarely ever get an answer. So I think the bigger question is, will the studio tell you how big the purse is to work with? Because I'm still waiting for that answer.
Yeah, I mean, the on the financial side of things, it's not really, there's kind of, I guess, regulations around that a little bit, but definitely everyone asks, we want Arcane and Spider-Verse, and then we want it in a year, which is like insane if you know what it took to make those projects, right?
And we only have $20,000.
So what I try to do is ask questions that sort out, get to the idea, like how much money, like I get an idea of it, but I won't get a straight answer because there's reasons for that, and then I want to make super clear that I am communicative in what the reality of the ambitions for a project may be, and then I design within that circumstance.
I think this whole thing needs to change though, because it's a lot like, hey, can you win this car or win this race in this race car? But I'm not going to tell you like how much horsepower it has or how much gas we're going to put in it. But
it's challenging, yeah.
So it's like that needs to change.
Yeah.
And it's kind of tough asking all of these questions up front before you're hired, right? Because so much can change over the course of a production, like even midway, right? So it's difficult because I feel like the name of the game for today has been be ready to pivot, be ready to compromise on things no matter what's thrown at you. You can do your best up front to try and be prepared, but something's always going to happen.
Sometimes they tell me you could hire 5 artists, and that's all they say. So.
But you can kind of reverse engineer it by sussing out, okay, how many artists can I hire? How long is production? And how many man weeks do I have at my disposal? Yeah. And you can kind of reverse engineer, okay, well, we have, and a lot of this, you'll find out if you ever find yourself in this position, is a lot of managing spreadsheets, looking at asset breakdowns and seeing I have 12 artists, I have 52 weeks for the whole production, we have 15 sets, 800 props, 8 characters, and you kind of have to then place all your pieces on the board and just kind of gauge what your budget is, because they won't tell you based off of how many hiring weeks
There's
you
an
have.
easier way, though. This is what I'm advocating for, a lot more people to be producers on their projects they're working on, because then you're more privy to this information. So anything that I'm like involved in pitching and I'm production designing, I'm also a producer, because for me as a production designer, it's easier for me to know, oh, we don't have the money to do that, so I'm not even going to plan it from the beginning, right? But a lot of these things are like, hey, can you production design this thing? We're not going to tell you how much we have, though. And you're like, well, I don't even know if we could have hair in our show, you know? So I think, if you can be your own producer and the production designer, you're going to get that information and you can do your job better.
I think that's probably all we have time for, right? Yeah. Cool.